Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack one of the most significant international legal rulings of our time, the 2016 South China Sea Arbitration Award. So, what was this all about?
Well, it really all starts with this one question. A question about a simple line drawn on a map that has sparked decades of tension and disputes.
And this is it, the 9-dash line. It's this huge claim made by China that covers most of the South China Sea. But back in 2013, the Philippines took a bold step and said, wait a minute. They initiated an arbitration, arguing that this line, well, it just doesn't hold up under modern international law.
And that move right there, it set the stage for a massive legal showdown. We're talking a claim of ancient rights going head-to-head with a modern global treaty. So the core of the fight really boils down to this. On one side, you have China arguing for historic rights, stuff established over, centuries of use. And on the other side, you have the Philippines saying, look, that's all in the past. They argued that the only thing that matters now is the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. That's the rulebook that everyone is supposed to follow today.
And this is absolutely crucial. The entire case was judged based on UNCLOS. Why? Because both China and the Philippines signed and ratified the treaty. So in the eyes of the law, they had both agreed to play by its rules, no exceptions.
Okay, so the tribunal's first big job was to tackle the main event. Was the 9-dash line itself actually legal?
And the ruling came back, and it was a bombshell. Totally unambiguous, the tribunal found that China's claim to historic rights inside that 9-dash line, it has zero legal basis under UNCLOS. Period.
Now, the reasoning behind this is what's so fascinating. The tribunal basically said that when all these countries created UNCLOS, they created a brand new comprehensive system, things like the Exclusive Economic Zone, or EEZ, and that new system essentially wiped the slate clean. It just completely overrode and extinguished any so-called historic rights that might have existed before it.
So, with the 9-dash line thrown out, the court had to ask the next logical question. What rights do the actual bits of land in the sea generate? And to figure that out, they had to apply a really specific legal test. And it all comes down to this one little rule, Article 121. You see, under UNCLOS, not all land is created equal. The law makes a crystal clear distinction between a feature that can support human life on its own and, well, one that can't. And the difference here is a game changer. I mean, the stakes could not be higher. If a feature is a true island, it grants a country a massive 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone. But if it's just a rock, it gets a tiny 12-mile territorial sea. And here's the kicker. The tribunal made it clear that to be an island, a feature has to sustain life in its natural state, not with a bunch of outside supplies or a military base propping it up.
So, what happened when they applied this test? Well, the tribunal went through every single high tide feature in the Spratly Islands one by one, and the conclusion was stunning. Not a single one, not even the biggest one, Ituaba, was capable of sustaining human life or an economic life of its own. In the eyes of the law, they were all rocks.
But this case wasn't just about abstract lines and legal definitions. The tribunal also had to rule on real-world actions, what was actually happening out there on the water.
So think about the logic here. Since none of those features in the Spratlys are true islands, they don't generate an EEZ. That means that areas like Mischief Reef and Reed Bank actually fall inside the Philippines' EEZ. And because of that, the tribunal found that China had been unlawfully interfering with Filipino fishing and oil exploration in their own waters. The tribunal also looked at the huge environmental toll of all this activity, and the number they came back with was just staggering. It found that at least 124 square kilometers of precious coral reefs in the Spratlys had been damaged. And this wasn't just natural wear and tear. The damage was linked directly to specific actions, like destructive giant clam harvesting. But even more significantly, it was linked to China's massive dredging and artificial island building campaign, which the tribunal said caused severe, irreparable harm and violated China's duty to protect the marine environment.
So, after going through all the arguments, all the evidence, all the legal code, what was the final word? What was the bottom line?
Let's just break it down. The final legally binding award was essentially a clean sweep. First, the 9-dash line, gone. No legal basis. Second, all those features in the Spratlys, they're legally rocks and they can't generate any economic zones. Third, because of that, China was found to have violated the Philippines' sovereign rights in its own waters. Fourth, China caused severe harm to the environment. And finally, the tribunal pointed out that China's actions while the case was ongoing had only made the whole situation worse. So the award gave us incredibly clear legal answers. It was a landmark moment for the law of the sea, for sure. But it also leaves us with a much bigger and maybe tougher question. What really is the power of international law when a major country just decides it's not going to listen? And that's something to think about.